cause you to fear. You can let your expectations fail and cause you to doubt. You can let your failed expectations cause you to become so afraid you never go in the water again. You can let your failed expectations cause whatever you think ought to be taking place, and all of a sudden you get mad and you run away from the very thing that God is trying to bring you to, and that is to trust Him.
Amen.
What do you do when your expectations fail? You expect God to do a miracle, and yet the truth is you're standing now at a graveside. You expect God to salvage your marriage, but you're in divorce court. You expect God to provide the finances, but you're filing for divorce. You expected your children to serve the Lord, and yet here you are staying up at night praying for them. When your expectations fail, what do you do? And the answer is you have to go back to the rock.
Amen.
Because His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And though we may not understand all that is going on, we have to learn to trust in Him.
Amen.
We have to learn to put our confidence and our hope and our expectations not on results, but on the person of who Christ is.
Yeah, that's right.
Because if our expectations are on God, then He will never fail.
Amen.
Because I trust Him when I don't understand what He's doing.
That's right.
When I don't understand what's taking place, I continue to put my confidence in Him because I know He will never leave me. He'll never forsake me.
Amen.
And though I may walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because He is with me. His rod and His staff protect me. When I'm surrounded by enemies, I'm looking for a table because He prepares a table before me, for me, in the presence of my enemies.
Right.
Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Not in the future forever, but from now and forever I dwell in His house.
Amen.
Jesus said, I go to my Father, and in my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you so. But I go to prepare a place for you. So the place where I'm at is the place He's prepared for me. And I'm going to trust Him even though it doesn't look like He knows what He's doing. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Hey, y'all ever looked at a job site when somebody's building a house? It doesn't always look like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't always seem like they know what they're doing. Things get rough. Things get challenging. Sometimes it looks like, oh, I'm almost there. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's still a long way to go. And then you think, oh, we're just about there. And there's still more stuff that has to happen. The framing goes up quick. The roof comes on fast. And then it seems like it slows down while they start putting in the plumbing and the rest of it. Then they put the sheetrock up. And you're like, oh, we're almost there. Then they got to finish the sheetrock. And you're like, we'll never get in. Y'all ain't going to say nothing to me today. I don't know what failed expectation you came to church with today, but I want you to know that God is still able.
Yes.
Amen.
Y'all ain't saying nothing.
Thank you, Lord.
God is still. Don't let the failed expectations cause you to get out of the boat. Don't let the failed expectations cause you to run to shore and be afraid of the water of faith again. Don't let the failed expectations because you sank, because you got your eyes on the waves instead of on Jesus. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Don't let the failed expectations cause you to quit the very fight that God has called you to win. I'll go home. When y'all get ready to come to church, y'all let me know. All right, y'all got to come here early because I'm talking to somebody today. And you can let the frustration of life that happens. But Pastor, why is this? Why is that? Why is the other? Because there's a devil loose.
That's right.
Why do I got to go through this and that and the other? Because there's sin in the world.
Amen.
Let me back up a little bit. There's sin in your life.
That's right.
Now, I'm not saying that sin caused the problem. I'm just telling you that as long as there's a devil loose and as long as there's sin in this world, until Christ comes back, you're going to have persecution. You're going to have suffering. There's going to be difficulties in your life.
Right.
Welcome to life. I don't like it. Check out. That's all you got. This is it. You may not like it, but it's, I told my kids, I said, I may not be the parent you want, I'm the parent you got. This may not be the life you want, but it's the life you got. You better figure out some way to make it work. You don't get round two.
Right.
You don't get a reset button or a do-over. This is it. Trust God through the midst of it. Trust God through the struggle of it. Pastor, you just don't know what it's like. I may not know what your pain's like, but you don't know what my pain's like, and it doesn't matter.
That's right.
God is the same for all of us.
Yes, He is.
And we've got to learn to trust Him through the struggle.
Amen.
Anybody can trust God. Anybody can sing a song on a clear day at noon.
That's right.
It's hard to sing in the midst of your storm.
Amen.
Anybody can sing. As long as everything's wonderful, everything's perfect, we all have happy go Jesus honk if you love Jesus bumper stickers. But if you ever go through a real thing, sometimes when somebody's honking, you forgot about your bumper sticker. Somebody passing by and honking, you forgot to wave. Jesus said, before He said, in my Father's house there are many mansions, He says, do not let your heart be troubled. You can go through trouble, but don't let trouble enter your heart.
Right.
Don't let trouble enter your heart. Because once it enters your heart, listen to me, church, it'll become bitterness.
Right.
It'll become discouraged, void of courage. Void of courage, void of courage. You won't have the strength to stand because you're like, oh, I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid. Pastor, you act like you ain't never afraid. Oh, no. I just learned never let them see you sweat. Never let them see you sweat. And it isn't that you're not afraid. It's not that things aren't difficult. I'm not minimizing the problem. I'm trying to maximize your God.
Amen.
If I can get you to quit worrying about how big the problem is, you'll understand how great your God is.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
And when you understand who, the more I seek Him, the more I find Him.
Right.
Quit seeking the expectation and seek God. Have you ever wished you was in a church that was charismatic, full of the Word of God, and happy to love Jesus? Have you ever wished that you had people who were excited about God? Have you ever gone to a basketball game or a football game and sat next to the fan you want to slap? Have you ever gone to church and sat next to somebody you wanted to shout, but you were afraid what they might say, so you just sat right there? I'm just saying, sometimes you might need to change seats. Because I'm telling you guys, if you ever understand this, your expectations fail. Expectations fail. Expectations fail. Well, don't stop at F. There's a G. Guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days when people got excited about God. When people loved to hear preaching.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
Expectations fail, cause you to fear. Expectations fail, cause you to get mully grubs. Expectations fail, cause you to doubt. Expectations fail, cause you to sit there like a bump on a pickle. Expectations fail, cause you to not get excited about God because you're afraid your expectations will fail. What if I trust God and my expectations fail? I'm not trusting God for a miracle. I didn't say trust God for a miracle.
That's right.
You never heard me say trust God for a miracle. I said trust God.
That's right.
Quit looking for the hand of God and look for the face of God. Quit looking for what your expectation is. Here's what God has to do to get me to say amen. Here's what God has to do to get me to say it's okay. Here, God, if you want me to shout, well, then let me see the miracle. No, you misunderstand it. He's got to be the expectation.
Yes.
If He's not the expectation, you miss out.
Yeah, that's right. Hallelujah.
Isaiah 6, He says, I was in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. He was high and lifted up. His train filled the temple. He didn't see a miracle.
That's right.
He didn't see a huge revival take place. He saw the Lord. Jesus said, if I'm lifted up, I'll draw men to me. Could it be that one of the struggles we have in the church universal is we no longer lift up Jesus?
Right.
Could it be the reason that we are not seeing millennials flock to church like they flock to the beach or like they flock someplace else, or even our older folks? Could it be that somewhere along the line we have got away from lifting up Jesus and we lift up orators? We lift up preachers, we lift up musicians, we lift up programs, we lift up buildings, we lift up edifices, we lift up cars, we lift up manifestations, we lift up things, and we're not lifting up Jesus. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me today. That's all right. I've said it in silence before. When I first started preaching, I used to go to the nursing home. They didn't say nothing either, because they thought their lives were over. Could it be that when your expectations fail and you think your life is over because you're believing God for a miracle and just not believing God?
That's right.
But if God is not enough, your miracle never will be.
That's right. Amen.
If God is not enough, your miracle never will be. I'll say it again because y'all ain't got it yet. If God is not enough, then your miracle never will be. Because when that miracle becomes old, and it will, then you'll be mad about the next struggle you go through, and now you're mad at God again because you didn't get your miracle.
That's right.
You're a 2-year-old kid who didn't get a piece of candy in Walmart. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Have you ever wanted to beat somebody else's kid like they wanted to beat yours? I go out. I don't do well with kids sometimes. Pray for me, John. I get out there and the kids are acting stupid and the parent ain't saying nothing. And I've tried not to say nothing. But I look at them. Because it used to be a look would get you straight.
That's right.
And when your parents said, I had a kid the other day, we were doing something, I said, okay, it's time to go. Let's go. And this kid didn't know me. And said no. Out loud. Jerry Clower came out. I said, the wind blew in like a hurricane. And I said, no. I said, don't you ever tell me no. When I say go, the kid started walking. I was like, don't you ever tell me no. When I say go, you mean go. Don't ever talk back to me, kid. I will rip your tonsils out. My wife goes, shh, don't make a scene. I said, she said no to me. My kids had lost skin over less than that. And I don't mean that bad like I'm just this mean ogre, although I probably am. I just said, here's what you're going to do, and I'm confused on why you're still there.
That's right.
Could it be that God has said some stuff to you and He's confused on why you're still sticking at your failed expectation?
Ouch. Ouch.
You ain't got to say nothing to me, because I'm just going to lay down and talk about David, where he laid in the dirt for 7 days praying for a miracle. But when God said no, he didn't roll over and start kicking his legs.
Right.
He got up and he washed himself.
That's right.
And he went to the presence of God to worship the Lord who just told him no.
Right.
And until he met with God, he had nothing to say to Bathsheba.
Right.
But after he saw Bathsheba, because he said, now that I've met with God and I've worshiped, I've valued, I gave worth to the God who did not need my miracle, now I can go talk to Bathsheba and comfort her. Because I have nothing for anybody until I give God the value that he deserves.
That's right. That's right.
If I don't give God the value he deserves, if I let other people hinder me from worshiping God, I don't care what they do. I smiled and I laughed because I had no. Tamar's like, I'm struggling trying to get back into that thing. And after playing, he goes, I don't know what to do. And she's like, I can't figure out where you're at. And he's like, I got nothing for you. And I'm like, I'm still going to worship.
Amen.
I'm not going to let the the fact that they're having nothing bad, I don't mean to out them in front of everybody. I'm just saying, I knew the conversation because I've had it before myself. But I'm not going to let the fact, I can't believe I can't even worship because I don't know what I'm supposed to be singing. How come I don't know what I'm supposed to be singing? You're not supposed to be singing, you're supposed to be worshiping.
Amen.
Sing is what we all do. Worship is the intervention. When you begin to say, God, I don't need words, I need you.
Yes, hallelujah.
And
Yes.
sometimes the Spirit causes me to pray to Him, and I don't even have the words to say. I just got to say, Lord, have your way.
Amen.
Lord, I don't know. I'm just going to worship you. I don't even know the song.
That's
Love
right.
is loyal, okay? Great. Yeah. Love is, but I'm not.
That's right.
But thank you, God, that you're faithful when I'm unfaithful.
Yes,
I thank you,
Lord.
God, that you're good to me when I'm... So, Lord, I'm not looking for the miracle. I'm looking for you.
Yes, thank you, God.
Church, if we'd ever come back and begin to look to Jesus, who is the author and the finisher of our faith.
Amen.
Quit looking at what faith can provide and look at who provides faith. For God has given unto every man a measure of faith. Then look to God who gives you the faith that you need. Amen.
Amen.
I'm trying. Isaiah, when he saw God, here's what he said. Woe is me. I'm a man of unclean lips. I don't have anything, Lord. I don't have any good. I don't have clean lips, Lord. He said, who can I send? Isaiah said, send me. But if you're going to send me, Lord, let me be touched by your presence.
Amen.
We've got people who've been touched by school. We got people who've been touched by problems. We got people who've been touched by all kinds of other things. But until we've been touched by His presence, listen to me, church. His anointing, His presence makes the difference in your life.
That's right.
Once you've touched Him, once He's touched you, you'll never be the same. The woman with the issue of blood, once she touched Him, His presence caused a change in her life.
That's right.
Well, she got her miracle. It wasn't the miracle that changed her. It was His presence that brought the miracle.
Amen.
You hear what I'm saying? His presence. If we would seek His presence like we seek miracles, if we would push through the crowd of people just to be in His presence, before we ever worried about the miracle. I wish I had time. I would take you where the blue thread that was on the bottom of his prayer shawl that he carried, that was mentioned in Leviticus. She says, I see Him as my high priest, and I'm going to reach up to Him as my high priest and stand on the Word of God because I just need His presence. Woe is me. I don't deserve it. I have nothing. I'm a bad person. I got issues. I got struggles. But I just need His presence.
Amen.
We quit trying to earn God's favor. I'm going to fast for 4 years so that I can get this miracle. I'm going to buy God's miracle by my actions. Help me, Jesus. No. Somebody said, how come you don't talk much about fasting? Because when you fast, you're not supposed to tell everybody.
That's right.
I'm not against it. Fast. I've done it. I'm all for it. But let me tell you something. Here's generally when I fast. If I'm not feeling His presence, then it's time to fast.
Yes.
If I'm not touching Him and He's not touching me, it's time to do whatever I need to do to get a hold of Him. Because I've got to have Him. He is my life.
Amen.
Y'all ain't saying nothing.
Thank you, Lord.
See, sometimes we got to understand more about who God is. I wish I had time. I'll take you someplace in the book of Ezekiel, somewhere toward the front. I think it's chapter 1, but I could be wrong. Where Ezekiel sees God and he tries to articulate who God is. Isaiah said His presence filled the temple. Ezekiel said He's a wheel in the middle of a wheel.
That's right.
He's got 4 faces. He flies and moves. And I don't know how to articulate who He is. But I fell down and I worshiped him. I bowed before him. Church, when we see him, we bow before him. Y'all ain't saying nothing. When we see him, we bow in submission to who he is. Let me show you again. In John, on the Isle of Patmos, he said, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. I heard behind me the voice of many waters, and turned and seeing Jesus, I fell as a dead man. Why is it we're not falling as... I'm not talking being slain in the Spirit, where somebody has to catch you and you got to straighten your stress out and you got to lay there all cute while you chew bubble gum and blow bubbles. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about falling down like a dead man. Y'all ain't never seen a dead man fall? It's not pretty. He doesn't fall in a particular nice fashion. You ever watch a man get shot, you'll find out he falls weirdly. I've only seen one guy get shot. That was enough. That was enough. For me, that was enough. Maybe you don't like it. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't like it. But he fell as a dead man. In other words, he wasn't concerned about anything else. He realized who he was. And when we stand in the presence of God, we should fall on our faces like dead men. We should fall down and say, God, not my will, but your will be done. We should bow before him like Ezekiel and say, Lord, whatever you want to do, you're greater than I am. I don't understand what you're doing, but I trust you. I spent last week in Key West, and I've only been twice. And both times I've had the same pleasure of watching guys work on boats. I don't even volunteer to go anymore. Because I realize while they're working on the boat, I offer nothing. Charles, you could probably offer some help. Because you have mechanical skills. I stand there and say, do you need a screwdriver? I mean, you ask for a tool, I can hand you what you need. But while they're trying to diagnose a problem, I'm over here drinking coffee because I offer nothing. Because I am the one person there who does not own a boat. I am very good at having my car maintained. Because I am very bad at fixing when it goes bad. So I'm the guy at 3,000 miles has the oil changed. I'm the guy that has this. Who said, did you hear that in your car? No. Did you feel that in your car? No. Oh, you got this. In my own truck, here's what no fuel. That's not good. Smoke coming in. That's even worse. Time to get out. Sprayed it with a fire extinguisher. Called 911. My skill set was over. I didn't have any more skills left. I could huff and I could puff. And I could blow, but the truck was burning itself to the ground. And I sat back and did what every self-respecting person would do. I put it on Facebook. Not because I love Facebook, but because I wanted to document the day and the time, and I wanted witnesses so that when I get into a court of law, my mind had nothing to do about saving the truck. I was trying to save something more important.
That's right.
My wallet. Now y'all can laugh all you want to, but I'm being honest. I offer nothing. I did learn when your car breaks down, pop the hood. Here's an engine. There's a battery. Somewhere down there's an alternator and a water pump. I don't know where. There's a starter in there someplace too. I'm not really sure where it's at, but I know they got one because I've heard guys talk about it. But I look at it because I offer nothing. I hate to admit it. Because as a guy, you're supposed to offer something. So I have studied physics, and now I understand the physics behind how a combustible engine works. So I stand over and say, the fuel goes into something, and then there's a spark that blows up, and it pushes something, and it does it so often that eventually it starts moving. I said, so where are we at? And they're like, you really don't offer anything, do you? I said, nothing. I am Sergeant Schultz. Now here's why I say that. Because when we come to God, we offer nothing. Nothing. What can I do to be saved? Nothing. He did it all. He paid a debt he did not owe. I owed a debt I could not pay. I needed someone to come and wash my sins away. That's what he did. So when I come to him, I look at him and I'm like, God, I know what I want you to do, but God, I trust you to do what needs to be done.
Yeah. Amen.
Oh, I can do what I do because one of them had a flat tire. I said, hey, I am on the flat tire. I knew how to change a tire. And so I changed the tire because that was my skill set. They were working on the boat that didn't function right. I don't know what was wrong with it, so please don't ask. Something about it wouldn't run. They hit the little key and it went bub, 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 bub. Then they did this to give it more. Let's go bub, 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 real fast, and it went bub, 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 bub. And they're like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. So we towed it in. I got a picture of me on the boat, which is funny, of Robert's boat, towing something in for the first time. And the boat being towed had tremendous confidence in the one that was towing it. It was hanging on by a thread.
That's right.
Oh, good. That's good. That's good. Yep.
They were stuck in the ocean. They couldn't get out. It wasn't like they could paddle themselves ashore. They were stuck in the ocean. They were at the whim of every wave and every element that came along until somebody called and said, can you go get them? They were stuck. Nobody knew where they were. They didn't know where they were. Because when we called them, we're like, where are you? They said, we're by channel marker 28. I said, I don't know where that's at. I said, Robert, you've been up here for 30 years. Where's channel marker 28? He goes, I don't know. He goes, ask them, and you have to know Robert's his name, just here's his friend. Ask them where they are in relation to the landfill. Because Robert does demolitions and stuff and recycles. And so I called them, I said, where are you all in relation to the landfill? They said, we don't know. There's nothing worse than not knowing where you are when you're stuck someplace and you can't go anywhere. And so there we are. We're trying to figure out in the ocean, because what they told us was they were at the beginning. So we steered, whatever you do on a boat, we drove there. And we got to where we started off, and they weren't there. The Atlantic is a pretty big place
That's right.
to go find a boat. Y'all ain't never been to the Atlantic. You know, it's a big body of water. I'm there trying to find the boat. Nobody knows where it's at. They said, okay, I called them again. I said, where are you? Well, we can see the towers. I said, radio towers. Yes. I said, good. There's 2 of them. Which one do you see? Have you ever tried to describe a radio tower? We're trying to figure out where people are. Eventually, we figured out where they were, and we were able to go there. Now, my problem is I don't drive a boat. So I'm like, it's over there. Robert, it's over there. Robert, it's over there. Robert, they're over there. And he's still going way out here. And I'm like, Robert, they're over there. He goes, yes. But it's too shallow for my boat to go that way. I got to go this way to pick them up. God, my miracle's over here. Lord, my miracle. Lord, you ain't paying attention, God. My miracle's over there, and you're going the wrong way.
That's good.
He shows up, and we threw them their only hope. grabbed one and I threw it. They were trying to throw me one, but the one they threw wouldn't work. And then I had to tie the one I threw them onto the boat in such a way that it wouldn't get tangled up in the propellers of the other boat that we was driving.
Amen.
And they were dependent on how I tied the knot. I felt pressure. Because remember, I don't have any nautical skills. I was never a Boy Scout. I went to Boy Scouts for 2 weeks. Then they wanted to go camping. I'll see y'all the week y'all get back. Tied it all on there, got it there, and now there they are following us. Wherever He leads me, I will go. I'll go with Him. With Him. All the way. All the way. If I'm on the Isle of Patmos, kicked out by myself with a bunch of thieves, left alone to die, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day.
Yeah. Lord, thank you, Lord.
I was in Babylon as a captive, Ezekiel, but I saw the wheel in the middle of the wheel. Isaiah, I was left behind as a prophet, but I wasn't in the upper echelon yet, and yet I saw the Lord high and lifted up, and His train filling the temple. Maybe you'll let me talk just for 2 more minutes, if you would. Out of the book of 2 Corinthians, where Paul writes, and he says, if I was going to boast, I could boast about all kinds of things. He said, but the problem is I'm weak. He said, I knew a man. He's talking about himself, but he talks about himself in the third person because he doesn't want anybody to think he's something special. He said, I knew a man who 14 years ago, whether he was in the body or whether he was in the spirit, I don't know, but he had a revelation of heaven. And before we go to the revelation of heaven, I want you to realize in verses 1 through 4, I believe it is, where Paul writes and he talks about himself, and he says, I am weak. If I'm going to boast, I can't boast in myself. I have to boast in who God is. All 4 of these men saw pictures and visions of heaven and never came back saying, oh, let me tell you about how great God is. What they came back saying was, oh my Lord, how weak and humble I am, because He is an awesome God.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
Ezekiel still was in captivity. Isaiah was still in struggles. John was still on the Isle of Patmos. Paul had been beat, shipwrecked, snake bit, thrown in jail, stoned, all kinds of stuff. But he was still saying, I boast in nothing but who God is.
That's right.
Church, if we are going to boast in anything, we ought to be boasting in who God is. Not the hand of God that did the miracle, but who He is. He is a holy God. He is an awesome God. He is the creator. He's also the sustainer. He's a pain taker, but He's also a sustainer while you go through pain. He knows what you're facing. Put your confidence in Him.
Thank you, Lord.
Who else can you go to that has words of life?
That's right. That's right.
Not actions of life, words of life that'll comfort you, that'll help you, that'll sustain you. Who else has a hand that'll undergird you? Maybe you've never seen it. I've been a preacher too long, I guess. I've been to too many funerals where I watch people fall apart at the hospital. Can't walk out, can't walk home. Fall apart at the funeral home where they need smelling salt. Fall apart at the funeral home where you got to carry them to a chair. Fall apart at the funeral home. I had one lady who tried to crawl into the casket. Tried to crawl. No grown person ought to try to crawl into a casket on purpose. Seen all kinds of it. I've seen people at a funeral home get into fist fights at a funeral home because emotions are running wild. I've seen people do some stupid stuff. I've seen craziness take place. I've seen people who are unconsolable because they refuse to trust God in the midst of their pain. Pastor, you've seen it. I can tell you what I've experienced, but some of that stuff's a little too personal for me to share with you. But this ain't the first time I've held a microphone in my hand. And this isn't the first time that I've ever had to cry myself to sleep. This isn't the first time that I've gone through struggles and heartache. But church, what I've learned is, my God is able.
Yes, He is. Thank you, Lord.
My God's able. He doesn't change. I don't like the circumstances that I find myself in, but He does not change. I stood at the casket of a baby that was just a couple months old, of a dear friend of mine. I've stood at the casket of 90-year-old folks and 95 and 98-year-old people who have lived a long life. But I've stood at the casket of a 14-year-old girl who was killed just by going to a party and slid off the car. And the car accidentally ran over her, busted her spleen, and she bled to death before we can get her to the hospital. 14 years old. I had just gone out on a date the Friday before with her. We had just gone through some different issues. I've been there. I told you the one time I saw a guy get shot and die, I watched a guy get shot in the face with a 45. After a basketball game. We're out there doing what people do after a basketball game when you're in high school. And the guys got mouthed at one another. He goes, I'm going to get my gun and I'm going to shoot you. And nobody believed him. And when he came back with a gun and he shot the guy dead in the eyes, blue blood everywhere. Said, what did you do, Pastor? I ran like a scared cat because I knew he had more than one bullet. Yes, he got arrested. Yes, things happened. Yes, I've seen my share of tragedies. I watched a guy that I knew. I'm not saying we were friends, but I knew him. He missed a turn. There was a steel guardrail. And the steel guardrail was at the height of the trunk or the hood of his car. And he missed the turn. And when he went off the bridge, the steel guardrail caught the hood. And the hood went straight back. Cut him in half from about here up.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm.
They pulled him out of the canal by our house in pieces. And my God is still able.
Yes.
I've gone to two of my friends' funerals who hung themselves. God is still able.
Amen.
Other issues that I've had to face, God is still able. I don't stand here as one who's never drank from sorrow's cup. But I stand here to let you know that though the miracle did not happen the way I thought it should, God is still able.
Amen.
And I'm not looking for the hand of God. I'm looking for the presence of God. I get confused. Y'all pray for me. I get confused. Because I see these books and these movies about people who say they've gone to heaven, and all they talk about for the most part is grandma and grandpa and cousin and uncle. But when I get to heaven, I want to see Jesus. I want to see, Michael English had it right. Take me to Jesus. I'm not saying I don't want to see the others, but take me to the one who died for me. Take me to the one who paid the price for me. I want to, not out of doubt, but I want to stick my finger in his wound so I can say thank you. I close with one last story. I read this story. I don't know if it's true or not, but I read this story about a man who was graduating, I believe it was college. While he was graduating, his mom was coming, and his mom always wore gloves, and his mom always kept her fingers and her hands in her pocket. But on this day, he said, Mom, I don't want you to wear any gloves, and I want you to take your hands out your pocket. When they took the gloves off, her hands were so badly scarred from different small cuts all over them. And his friends were like, ooh, your mom's hands, ooh, what happened to them? He said, those are the most beautiful hands you'll ever see. He said, I was in an earthquake, and we got caught under a bunch of rubble. I was so thirsty. I just needed something to drink, and I was crying for my mother to give me something to drink. And she would cut herself, and I would drink her blood to sustain my life. He said it wasn't she cut herself once. She cut herself multiple times to save my life. What you call ugly, I say is beautiful.
Amen.
Church, what I'm trying to tell you is when you look at Jesus, he becomes more beautiful than any tear you've ever cried. He becomes more beautiful than any valley you've ever had to walk through. He becomes more beautiful, and when you want him more than you want anything else, you'll find out that he'll give you peace that passes understanding.
Amen.
I don't understand all the times of this, and I don't understand all the tragedies that I've had to help people through, and I don't understand all the conflicts and why people are the way they are. I understand they went through hard times and difficulties. I don't understand how that going through very similar things, God kept me from becoming whatever. But here's what I know. When he becomes enough, everything else pales in comparison.
Amen.
And my God is more than enough.
Yes.
Amen.
He's more than enough. What do you do when your expectations fail? You look to him.
Amen.
Look to him, for he only. When sorrow makes lonely, and all the days and the night close in, he can turn back the midnight, and he can let in the sunlight. All you have to do is look to him.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
You can look to him in the midst of your struggle and find hope. Let me give you a quick example. Stephen was being stoned, and he looked up and he saw Jesus standing at the right hand of the Father.
Amen.
And it changed him so much that he quoted Jesus by saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
That's right.
It wasn't that his circumstances changed. His opinion of God changed. And maybe in the midst of your frustration, what you need is to not look God as just the miracle worker, although he is, but look to him as a sustainer of your soul. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, because it is the gospel that is the power of God unto salvation.
Amen.
I may go through difficult times, but if I lift up Jesus, I'm going to get through.
Amen. Thank you, Jesus.
I'm going to get through. I'm going to get through. I want you to bow your heads just for a moment. Just for a moment. I don't know who I've been preaching to. My wife came to me and she kind of confirmed some stuff. She didn't know I was going to preach. I never tell her. I didn't tell the praise team. They didn't know. And she came up and said God laid some stuff on her heart that we need to do. So I'm going to ask you, I know it's going to be a challenge for some of you, but I'm going to ask you if you all would do this for me. And we'll kind of sit up here in the front. If everybody would just come up front for me, if you would, please. I know, Al, with your foot, you probably need to sit down. But I'm going to ask everybody if they would just to come up front. You can sit, we ain't got to gather around the altar. You just gather around the front seat in case somebody needs to sit down. Just everybody, if you would, kind of get as close as you can. If you need to sit down, you can. And I want you to reach over and grab somebody by the hand. We're facing some issues. And we're going to pray and we're going to see God's face and we're going to see God move. Y'all behave. You could be holding hands. We got struggles in the church. I ain't gonna sit here and blow smoke in nobody's face. We got folk that are sick. Al's cracked his ankle. Brenda's been struggling with her back. Terry's been struggling with her legs. Missy's been fighting for her life. Joanne Roscoe had to walk through some dark days and lonely nights. Last week, Amy spent most of the week in and out of the hospital with her husband Colin. Been dealing with debilitating migraines and the treatment's not helping. Before that, one of the kids was in the hospital sick. Judy's been dealing with leg issues she ain't told nobody about. I just did. Outed you right in front of God and everybody. Chucky won't admit it. He's getting stronger, but he still has heart struggles. Roscoe won't tell anybody, but he refuses to listen to the doctor. His blood sugar jumps all over the place. Some of y'all I'm leaving alone because I'm afraid y'all might fight back. Gordon and his family have gone through at least 1 or 2 sleepless nights. A couple struggles. In church, it seems like we've been under attack. But there's some things I've learned about fighting. There's strength in numbers. And when we all come together and say, you know what, it doesn't matter what the battle is, Jesus hasn't changed. We put aside all the pettiness, all the things that frustrate us, and we look to Him and we say, Jesus, have your way. We need God to do miracles.